The subject, we're in Tav Kuf Lamed Zayin, and we're going to learn a series of halachas, Hey, Vav, and Zayin. That's my dream. Okay, to learn all those halachas. It's all the same thing. Obviously, I don't mean it's the same thing, but it's all related. Now, the subject over here, as I said many times, and I stressed this many times, I'm saying it again, the subject of Hilchos Chol Hamoed is a balance between tircha and malacha. And then there's also a pirsum issue. These are variables which are forever changing, meaning to say that each situation has to be put into the program and worked out how these things work. Now, the subject which we're going to see in Shulchan Aruch speaks about watering one's trees, plants, etc. And I would like to just read a Chazon Ish which discusses nowadays watering. In other words, one of the greatest inventions that the Israelis made.
Nowadays, 60 years ago.
Yeah, but this the kuda that they watch. I said from the greatest inventions that the Israelis made was the drip system. That's an Israeli invention. You familiar with that?
Yeah.
That's a drip system.
Oh, yeah.
That's their invention. It's an Israeli invention. What they have pipes, and wherever you have a tree or a plant, it has a hole, and it just waters where you need it, and nowhere else. That's an Israeli invention. The guy must be the grandfather of Mr. Ways, who invented it. But actually, this idea, the olden times, you would water by bringing pitchers and pouring water, a watering can, right? Or you had an irrigation dish and you made a trench and you filled it with water and you moved the water around. And this is a lot of work. There's a lot of work. Nowadays, we have this thing called hoses and pumps. I don't know if you realize what life would be like without these. We take it for granted, and it's a whole different situation. So I'd like to read a Chazon Ish that he discusses the pump. Where does it fit into the halachas? We're going to be learning a few halachas. I want to discuss his discussion about the pump, and I use the expression, the colloquialism. I got a kick out of reading the Chazon Ish because he makes two statements about the pump, which both, in my opinion, are 100% wrong, and just shows where we've moved. It's what was then simple is today hard, and what then was hard is today, push it. We're in a different reality. So even when you read a Chazon Ish, when you think you're reading a modern sefer, you should know you're really reading archaic, as far as where we're up to.
You say he was wrong. I mean, based on where we are today.
No, that's what he's talking. He discusses, is fixing a pump a Maisa Hedyot or not? You know what a pump is like today? You need an electrical engineer to fix a pump. You have to change the circuitry. I mean, it wasn't a pump. He's talking about something else. His pump and our pump. Do you remember in the park, this pump, right? When's the last time somebody saw one of those? Notice he's just not talking about. You'll see. I'll read the piece, and you will also get a.
You got some good fresh water that way too.
Okay, it was rusty in the beginning. You forgot about that, right? I don't know why you so conveniently forgot about that. Tough Kuf Mem Dalet, I thought it was. All right. Let's just see it again. Where it was. Tough Kuf Mem Dalet, I think. good luck today. That was tough for $1. Shulchan Aruch, here we go. Beige. Tough kuf lamed dalet. Kuf lamed. I said kuf lamed hey, that's what I did wrong. All right, here we go. Here, yesh la'ayin. B'mayim shu omuk imuter lahashkas v'meno v'diavad. You have a deep water cistern, okay? Dehine hadla b'tarech meruba v'adei. To use a bucket and that's for sure also because it's a lot of tircha. Kika miboilin behemid amayin mizanek. You put on it a pump. V'hamayim oilim mehalein umashkim esasada. Okay, v'nira demuter. Af agav davidi demeskalkol hamizanek. Even though it's liable to have the pump break, this is wrong, right? No, this is not. No, it's like.
That's a mechanical pump.
What?
It's a mechanical.
It's okay. No, I'm saying this is. I'm saying you're reading. You have to adjust what he's saying to the Hamayim book where Haki Obi the Paski, which you're going to learn about that things which stop. They don't have a continuous flow. You're not allowed to do because they're afraid you're going to do something with the big tircha. Mikok, welcome, but Mayim Lagozru. By a Mayan, we're not Gozer. Why? Because a Mayan doesn't ever stop. Mm-hmm. So, do we look at our water supply like a Mayan? It's a fascinating question. Okay? We come up with Mayan Sheyetze Mitchila, and you don't have a problem. Avagav the Hocha Efsher, the Shchiach Tvei Sheis Kalkel, that it's common that the pump should break, which I disagree. Our hands are tied. We can't answer the pump because it's like a Mayan, and whether it breaks or not, that's our innovation, and we don't have a right to answer it. You're allowed to fix it. Chol Hamoed. Lesser apamakam pseida. It's not called terech meruba. This is also wrong. No, it's. I have nothing against the Chazon Ish. He's discussing a whole different situation, right? Anyways, that's really the part that I wanted to read. But so in other words, even when you'll read something, but the Chazon Ish says, the Chazon Ish was speaking about something. He didn't think specific, but it's irrelevant to our situation, But I want to continue. The pump goes to a pool, and from the pool there are other pipes that go out. That would be aser, even though it's part of the same system. Why? Once you have pools of water, so the halacha of pools of water is different than the halacha of a mayan, and there's no real, what we call airtight connection between the two. So what do I don't care how the brechas got full. You're taking water from a brecha, so maybe it should be aser. V'afagav the kan ein a brecha bolid make kloin shatzi noris betachtet a brecha v'chol hamayim yotzim menu mikol mokum lechilku bebrechas. There was no chilik of what kind of brechas you have, and therefore it should be aser. Perhaps we should look at it. It's like that you have a irrigation thing that runs through the brecha, and it's attached to the brecha, and it's on a continuous fill. Mikol Mokom Kivan Sheyasa Aberza Yavo Meimayin Havi Kavas Hamayin Overes Bereim. If you open up the berez, they'll have a continuous flow and never be what we call standing water. It'll always be flowing water. Mio Bazeh Yesh Lada Mishum David Lepiski. That's not true because you can close the berez. A mayon, which is a natural, never-ending thing, is different than a berez that you can turn on and off. So how do we don this water system of ours? This is like a very basic question. Mikol Mokom Nira Dechi Hechi Deshari LaHashkas Mimayin Hochanami LaHashkas Mibrecha Al Smach Mayin. We could look at this brecha not as an isolated pool. Perhaps we could look at it as an extension of the mayin. Miu b'shash and eskalkal mezanik ein lahashkas mibrecha. But if it breaks the pump, so now they're not attached anymore. You can't see it as a one unit. So you're not allowed to turn on the pump from the brecha to the rest of the field. As long as the pump to the brecha is working, we can see it as part of a never-ending water supply. But if that pump is broken, and now you're taking water out of what we'll call the reservoir, that's forbidden. No, even not by take from a brecha, because there's a gzer, we'll see. All right.
Not just that's a mechanical pump, or also an electric pump. An electric pump requires zero effort.
We're going to discuss that soon in a minute, but I don't think it makes a difference.
Okay.
It doesn't make a difference because these were set what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do. We'll see. I just want to read the last line over here. Which paragraph is the last line? Okay. In summation of these halachas, he has a fascinating conclusion. We last week ended up in the subject of the lady calling the rabbi with her dress. That's where we ended up, right? And how do we figure out if the dress is really going to get ruined? Were you here last week? You missed out.
Stain on the dress.
The stain on the dress. So, what is there something to rice? Is something to rabbanon? How much research does a rabbi have to do? You guys all slept since last week. You weren't worried about this problem. I know there's no Chol Hamoed in between. Anyways, that's what we discussed. Now I'm going to read a line, and I know this line is going to come back to haunt me at a future date. I'm aware, but I would like to read it anyways. V'safik sheyave havi kedavra ovid. If safik davra ovid, it's like a davra ovid. Vadai. Kivon. Now listen to this. Deshaktu lochos al memonim shayisrael. Chazal were careful that Klal Yisrael shouldn't lose out money. Now this is absolutely wild, and this is very, very important. V'harei mitzvahs hashavas aveda al zeh sha'omed b'makom ha'teiref. We have a suffix mitzvahs hashavas aveda. Vein kiyumoy muftach, and the field is not guaranteed that it'll still be around. So here we have a fascinating question. I just would like to, here we are in Hilchos Chol Hamoed. Where did Hashavas Aveda come from? So I would like to share with you a story. And this story is, in my opinion, a very important story. There's a guy in my kollel, he's not in my kollel anymore. He's a Rebbe today in America. And he's a real masmid. And he's a real oived. He's a Tzvi Meyer guy. I don't know if you know what that means. But and he's a fellow that his Shemona Esreis take 10, 15 minutes. He's a fellow that you find in the Beis Medrash Friday afternoon, 12 o'clock Friday night. You know, he's a real masmid. He's a bulldozer kind of a guy. And he comes over to me and says, I have a serious question to ask. So I said, yeah, what's your question? So he says, my cousin's father-in-law moved into the neighborhood, and he doesn't have any relatives, doesn't know anybody over here. Could you please go and visit him? Take your family and visit him, this older couple that they're new in town. Their name is Fern, and they just moved here. We can go and cheer them up. So I went with my 6 children, and I spent an hour there. This ordeal cost me 2 hours Shabbos afternoon. And I came back, Baruch Hashem. I did a mitzvah. It was a very nice, pleasant visit. I came back. And on Sunday, my cousin calls me up, and he says that my father-in-law enjoyed the visit so much. Could you come with your family every Shabbos? I don't make these things up.
How lucky you are.
Yeah. So he says, I don't have 2 hours every Shabbos to go and visit this guy. But you understand the guy, right? This is a real question. So yes, what do we tell the guy?
Thank you very much. I appreciate the mitzvah, but it's just not almost physically possible for me to be able to do that every Shabbos.
Why?
Split it.
You don't want to. That's all. You have other wants.
Okay.
You're a mean guy.
Why can't his family go when he stays?
What's the father going to do? Play parcheesi with the guy's wife? What's going to...
Have fun with the children.
No, it's an oh yeah, right? That's not an eitzah. That's not an eitzah. This is a question I had. So I tried to go to Shulchan Aruch and I tried to find a source. I have a source. And I'll tell you what I told him. I said to him as follows. I'm right now quoting a halachah in Shulchan Aruch. In truth, if you would ask me why am I calling it a halachah in Shulchan Aruch, it's a Gemara, because it sounds better when you say it's a halachah in Shulchan Aruch. It's also a Rambam. No, in other words, it means it's the bottom line. You understand? The halachah is as follows. If you have a mitzvah of Hashavos Aveda, so then you're mechuyev to do it. What about if the Hashavos Aveda costs $10, the chayfetz, and you have to, in order to do it, you have to take off of work, which is going to cost you $12. So you're not mechuyev. Why? Chayecha koidmin. Your $12 comes before his $10. Right? That's what the Gemara says. Okay? That's fair. We get that. What about if you're not sure if it's going to cost you your chayecha's koidmin or not? Which many times it happens. You're not sure. I may miss the bus. I may not miss the bus. All kinds of situations. So what's the halach in that situation? So the quote goes as follows. You're potter. V'hamakayim ba'atzmai kach, soifoi lovo lidei kach, u'maver ol gemilas chasodim mitzavora. What? No. No, that part's a Shulchan Aruch. Yeah. So, what's the halacha? You're a creep. That's the halacha. That's what it says. You're technically potter, but this is called an excuse, and you will pay for it.
If you do it always.
One second. Always, I'm walking down the street, and I have a suffix chayecha koidem. I don't find Metzias every day. What's that always?
Well, whenever you have a communist lesson, you'll always have an excuse of why if I do
That's
this.
okay. That's not what you could write your own Shulchan Aruch. That's not the case Shulchan Aruch is talking about. The case Shulchan Aruch about is when a person has a legitimate suffix, and the halacha is amakayim ba'atzmo kach sefer lo l'dei kach.
Oftentimes a person has a legitimate suffix, and somebody who goes around always relying on that is not.
1 second. So 30% you can do it? Where do you get that from? You just made that up. That's wonderful. That's why in the back of the Shulchan Aruch there's extra pages. You see, they always have pages for people to add in what they would like.
Es atzmai ol gemilas chasadim is from one time, or from that he was perik ol gemilas chasadim. If he generally
This
he wasn't perik ol gemilas chasadim.
the answer to the question. This is an attitude.
Now, generally he doesn't. The other occasionally he does, as opposed to generally he doesn't.
Listen, this is a question of attitude. That's what the halacha is telling us. He didn't say that a person who doesn't do a chesed is perek ol gemilas chasadim. The person who makes this cheshbon is perek ol gemilas chasadim. It's the subject is the different subject. The subject is, what is my attitude? Me first, vadai, suffix me comes before vadai you. When I have that kind of attitude, I'm in trouble. That's what it says. That's what it says. Now, how many times that has have to happen, it doesn't make a difference if that's your attitude. So I told this fellow, we have to find an eitzah. But until you find an eitzah, I would say it's not clear that you can't do it. And it's not clear that we can't find somebody else. Next week do it. I think this is what's unconclusive if this was a mitzvah she'iyah shel asay de'acherim. Right? Mr. Fern, do you know anybody on this street? Before, and I'm talking about, when you came here the first time.
No.
No? So after 2 months' time, you already know people, right? But there's a initial period of time that you feel at a loss. At a loss. Not like you, that you have kids here. You don't count, right? No, I'm serious. That's not. You came to an existing environment. You knew people here beforehand. But there's a serious issue. A person comes into town. Yesh Torbagoy, especially a guy who's 65, 70 years old that was part of a community, and now he's a boded that nobody looks at. אני מרגיש את הצער של הבן אדם. Okay, so now, when we speak about, let's go back to the Chazon Ish. The story itself is a fascinating story. Let's go back to Chazon Ish. Suffolk Dover ha'ovid. This Jew's produce, his field, may get ruined. Hashavos Aveida. Shaktu, Chazal were shayked to make sure that a person shouldn't lose. When you have a question, I'm talking about Chazal, I'm not talking about you and I, I'm not talking about that I personally have a question. So we always say it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu is much more easy to accommodate than your neighbor. That's a klal. Okay? I don't think that needs a pirush, right? That's without a pirush. HaKadosh Baruch Hu understands that you have issues. Someone called me up on the way here. Got a question about who should daven, should be mevater, not mevater. I said, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is okay with you. Your parents are okay with you being mevater. It does more for the neshama than not being mevater. It's a pashut. It's pashut. Anyways, so we have to keep in mind this new view that Chazal are shaktu that people shouldn't lose out money. Yet, the halach which we said last week is still in place. It's a machlekes v'shayna, safek d'rabbanan l'chumra, safek d'raisa l'chumra, safek d'rabbanan l'kula. These two aren't a steer to them. Now let's go and see the halacha that we're talking about. I'm going to read all three halachas together in one breath, so to speak, and then we'll see the Mishnah Berurahs. Ein oisim charitzen b'shab'ikre agafalim k'dei she'yismal hamayim. You don't make cracks in the ground like a water, irrigation ditch. They already were there beforehand and they got filled in, the walls caved in. But also you can't make them deeper than they were. You can just fix them up. That was there, and that's not called a lot of tircha. Again, this has nothing to do with malacha. It's all Isser D'Oraisa malacha. But you're allowed to do this because it's not called a tircha and it was already there beforehand. Next. Amas hamayim sheniskalkala. These are greater water arteries. Misakin ha'isal. You're allowed to fix them. Ha'isal muka tefach. If this is machlokes, we'll see in the Mishnah Berurah, it was, let's say, it started off as an amma and the walls caved in until it only became only a tefach. Chayfer ba'at shisha. You're allowed to make it dig 5 tvachim deep to make your water one way. Ha'isal muka tfachayim. If it was tfachayim, mamik at shiva. You're allowed to do 5. More than 5, the Mishnah Berurah says you're not allowed to do, because that will always be called a tircha yisera. So in other words, there's a limit on how much we let you do. Zayin, moishcheres hamayim me'ilan le'ilan, u'bavad sheyashki kol asada. You're allowed to furrow the water lines in the ground to go from tree to tree, as long as you're not doing the whole sada. But moisa sada lacha, and if the ground is wet, then mutar lahashras eskula, you're allowed to do the whole thing because it's not called a big tircha. So all of these halachas are tircha halachas. They're all malachas d'oraisa. There's no question as far as malachas is all isser d'oraisa to do on Shabbos. The subject is, are these called tircha yisera, and there's a hefsid, and the answer is, if it's not a tircha yisera, you're allowed to do these things which are a hefsid. Now, Chazon Ish, on this halacha, says something which is also fascinating, and the Chazon Ish over here, he equates all of these halachas to Hilchos Shvius. And he says, Aval mi'efshel limshach me'ilan le'ilan mutar lahashkas kol asada shareish kan davra obad el kol le'efshel limshach me'ilan le'ilan farnafik mizeh mehefsid masha'ekein b'makom d'lo yefshel. Okay, in other words, the idea is that we have to do the minimal amount to just keep things going. Now here's the part which is important. Upardisim shalanu. In other words, we don't have 10 tabei, so our agriculture system, how we plant things, is not in sync with that which was going on in the times of the Gemara. Im higia zman and lishtais b'moyed, mafsidin, they get ruined. The dina gabeis hashalchan, umut lashkoisam aidei tziroinas hamayim, shenimshachim min habrecha, ulamoisam aidei atziner, shenimshachim min hamayim aidei pump, which we already discussed. You're allowed to use your water system. She'iyah shelimshach mayim me'ilan le'ilan, we can't do that. V'od she'em ritzufin yoyser me'eson lebeisa, they're more densely planted than eson lebeisa. V'shir zevanatiyas avlilanos she'shiuran gimel lebeisa, v'shir natiyah ila nechleku b'perkama v'chulu, mi'ulayin din zeh mashma dilanos nam v'shirin yil lebeisa v'chulu. V'kol zeh bizman shaloi niskalkel v'hamayim oilem min hamayim. Aval bizman sheniskalkel osel lahashkas min habrecha. Again, if you have a problem, you're not allowed to. Afagav l'masidi. Even though your plants are going to get ruined. The osu chachamim lahashkas v'megishamim. You're not allowed, if you don't have a kosher water source, you're not allowed to take from megishamim. Who afilu b'makom she'yeh shel lahashkas min hamayim u'masidi. When it's usher, it's usher. You can't say, well, please. It doesn't help. Okay. Okay. And this is enough. Okay, let's see now the Mishnah Berurah. Hey. Why are you not allowed to do this? Do tircha yisera v'asa af deikap seder. You're not allowed to do something which is tircha yisera, even though you're going to have a loss. Now, what will be for the hefsim ruba? That maybe we'll discuss some other time. V'neskalkulu v'adayin nikar achritz ma'at, afilu pachos mitafach. It has to be that there's something still there. But to start over from scratch on Chol Hamoed to make these chritzim for the water to go, that you're not allowed to do. The leka tircha kuli high, as long as you have something that you're starting with. Amas hamayim, haynu achritzim asuim bekarka, shebahem hamayim hochos vius hasada, umashkasai. So this is the external big flow of water. V'nikra amal fishu rochav amal v'amakam. This kalkul masakin asa amal ein ois and ois l'tchilu. You're not allowed to make amas hamayim in the beginning. It has to be something that was already in existence working. You're not allowed to do anything. It's mashma for that tefach, you're allowed to go to 6. So when I said over the halachas and Shulchan Aruch, I said that the walls caved in and you ended up with a tefach. I didn't, nobody's challenged me, I got away with it. I didn't read it like the taich of the Shulchan Aruch is. It says, as long as it's a tefach, you're allowed to make it 6. So I took the liberty to change and read it wrong. And that's based on the Mishnah Berurah, which we're about to see. Okay.
What is Pshat in the Shulchan Aruch? What did you change it?
Let's see. Milosh is a masha desirle da filo haisa chafura mierev yontif al tefach mutter lach v'chol hamoed yosef. You're allowed to make it into the full share. Then you're allowed to do so. You're allowed to fix that which became ruined. It's mashma that had to be that it was once proper. From a tefach until 6 is also. And therefore it seems to me the Mishnah Berurah holds that one should not do it. So I read according to the Mishnah Berurah's psak, not according to Shitas HaMachaber. All right. Ad Shisha, Dezeu Shir Avos Hamayim, V'tzarch L'tzamtzin Shir V'lo Yoser V'lo Pachos. Dezeu Shir Avos Hamayim. Now, that word over there is a little bit tzarchian. Why should you do Lo Pachos? Bishlam, I say you can't do more work. I understand. Can't do less work.
Maybe still don't have it.
Can't hear you.
Maybe still don't have it.
I want to absorb it.
To absorb the hazard.
Yeah. Why are you dictating to me?
Maybe once he starts doing a little, then maybe he'll end up doing more.
Let's say that we'll call this it's supposed to be a foot. So he says you're not allowed to make 13 inches, and you're not allowed to make 12 inches. 11 inches. So Bishlam can't make 13 inches. I'm okay with that. That's fine with me. Why can't they make 11 inches?
You're not going to have irrigated plants.
Yesh teken.
No, you need to do it in 2 times.
Yesh teken. I'll explain to what you're saying. Yesh teken. No, there's a reason why they're amal amal. They're calibrated to a certain size for a certain reason. It's not by accident. And you want things to work, so there is a ratio of how big it has to be in order for it to be takin. So you're not going to get an amas hamayim unless you do it right. Now, what stands in the way of what I'm saying is my pshat in the Machaber. I said if you had one that was only a tefach, you're only allowed to go to 6 tefachim if that's the way it was. But if it wasn't like that, I can't make, if it was 2 tefachim, I say you go to 2 tefachim. How does it fit with this shita? I think I have a text to that question. We're just pointing out the seeming inconsistency. All right. Shazel Gam Kein fine. All right. Next, Zion. Moishchin as Hamayim Me'ilan Le'ilan, Uvat Shlo Yashka Kol HaSader. Kishoysin Sovan Ilach HaFirus L'Mal Sois Hamayim, V'su Ein Zeh Terech Meruba, La Sois Chris She'em Shecho Bo Mayim Me'ilan Le'ilan. Once you already have the framework, you just have to bring it to each individual tree. That's not a big deal to do it. Ubavat shlo yishke va'afim lo yishke kula lekab sedeli lonas dal shedei ashko yeh avocha lilonas lo shirin tircha rabba b'shil avocha. You can't do tircha rabba just for things to be a little better. Ela kula shekivan shoy salacha mimayim mikodim, since the ground was already soft. Ein baterch yeser al yedei ashko.
This is all Rebach.
No, it's not Rebach. It says it will be Pharrell, they're not allowed.
Tircha is Sarah for Rebach. But Tircha Stam. I thought this is more, we're talking halacha. If I understand correctly, Lisharin and Tircha Rabba.
Where are you? Which one? Start from the beginning. Va'afim lo yishka kula.
Yeah.
Lekab sedelonis. Why? The afshal yedei ashka yavocha lilonis. You're not going to get ruined, even though you're gaining. Lo shirin tircha rabba b'shil avocha. We're speaking about a situation. If you're not going to do all of them, there's not going to be you just do some of them, it'll be enough to keep it limping along.
But if you don't do any, they will get ruined?
Yes.
If you don't do any,
To get ruined.
will get ruined. There
Right,
is
but
hefsek.
but if you did just these trees, the rest of it will get wet enough. Okay. Okay. Ches. Also liftach mokam l'sadeh kadei shekansu b'mayim lashkoisa. They had like a irrigation ditch with a plug on it, and what's the secher called on the Kinneret? Can't right now remember. All right, we're gonna send you back to where you came from. Anyways, they haven't opened it since you've been here. Don't worry about it. Anyways, you have has a name, Sechar, okay, whatever. Digani, yeah. Anyways, if you welcome back. Anyways, if you have a cock outside your field, you pull it open, and water goes through, and then you have a cock on the other end, and it continues along. So this is what we're talking about doing. Also, let's talk about b'makom l'sadeh kadei shekanzu b'mayim lashkoisa. You can't do that on Yantif. Ay Chol Hamoed. V'masa kadei lotzu dogim, that water comes in from the ocean, and you catch fish, and you can eat the fish. So then you're allowed to do it. You do it, and you have multiple purposes. One purpose is for watering, and the other purpose is to get the fish. Then you're allowed to do it. Now here is a fascinating Mishnah Berurah.
Are you allowed to make a joke? Are you allowed to do
We'll see. After I finish Mishnah Berurah, I don't think your question is going to exist exactly. Why you're not allowed to do it? Because the Havik Kimazabal Sada B'moed, that's doing extra. Kedei L'Ochlo B'moed, V'ayim Beis Beis Shadaita Deinu Oser, Rakin Kavanosa, Kedei L'Hasher Kol HaDogim, Al Achar HaMoed. Avon Kavanosa, Kedei Lechol Mehem, Afilu Ein Daita, Kedei Lechol Kulon, Shaper Domi. Ulam B'bir Agrod, Medamle the Doshois, Shoisim B'tzin L'Tzor Chavod, V'shom Alei Kosa B'chaber, Shelo Yarim Litchon Yoser B'Hakavona. So here we have this question. It depends on what your kavana is, or just the way what it looks like, and this has to do again with the subject of malacha versus the tircha. Okay, we'll stop over here.
Next week is Hilchos Hanukkah.
Yeah, next week is Hanukkah. Same chelek.
Same kind of.